On tonight's super spooky Halloween Spooktacular with Bubs and T-Bag. The guys demand congressional action after finding razor blades in their fun-sized Snickers.
There is definitely going to be a pushback with this at some day.
Well, hopefully their paperwork is in order.
Bubs goes to a dark place after reminiscing about his 6th grade altar boy costume.
This is way out of fucking left field, but I feel that in my plums.
And T-Bag takes a stroll down Elm Street dressed as a 1980s Johnny Depp.
What's the first thing he winds up in after sleepwalking in the neighborhood? You guessed it, a gay bar.
All this and gunplay with a real American hero. Coming up.
The Bubs and T-Bag Halloween special. Talk about a hunka burning love. What the hell are you wearing, Bubs? That looks amazing. Gosh bless you.
Fucking rock and roll. Fucking rock and roll.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
What are you wearing?
You know me. I'm going today as a barfly, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah.
So just it's a stretch?
Yeah, a guy who drinks beer all day, doesn't have a whole lot of cares or worries in the world. And, spends his pocket money on old Milwaukees and things of that nature.
What time do you get there in the morning?
If it opens at 11, I'm usually there by 10:55. Yeah,
Do you ride your 10-speed up?
I got a golf cart.
So you're wearing some tree-torn shoes and some acid-wash jeans?
Yeah, and I'll do odd jobs in town.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thing.
Handyman.
Yeah, exactly.
And a handyman to the ladies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll do
those
other
bar flies, can I say that?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. To all my friends, here, I'm holding it up. I got a fucking thick boy here.
That is.
An old tennis shoe, as we called it back in the day.
We had a few gifts brought to us today at the studio for the Halloween special. Everybody, welcome again to the Bubs and T-Bag show. Today we're drinking half quarts of Old Milwaukee, the best beer for that wonderful world of leisure. Thanks again for joining us. We're going to talk Halloween, costumes, movies, current events, old movies, old men, old Minnesota. You know the drill.
Why do you keep throwing old men in there?
Well, because we're old.
Well, we're not old. You're as young as you feel. I feel like I'm 19 in my fucking head.
You're not.
I know, but I feel like I'm 19, and then my body says, no, stop.
My body's been saying that a few times, too.
Yeah,
lately.
But you're 10 years, you're a decade younger than me. Come on now.
I know. Well, I'm
What's
not.
that barfly life?
I'm not complaining. I worked out today with
Did
the
you?
American Farmer 0600 again.
I did downward dog today.
No shit.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Cat cow. I did some stretching.
Yeah?
Yeah, and then I hit the weights.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, deadlifts, squats, presses, pull, press.
I cracked 50 burpees out today.
Fuck. Good for you.
Not all at once. I mean, 5 sets of 10.
Yeah, well, it's
mixed in with some other stuff.
Kind of a CrossFitter.
Yeah, it was a good workout. Afterwards, we had a coffee, some other sort of delectables, I guess you could say, in the early
And then you went to the
time.
bar.
No, I did not. I didn't go there until it was time to meet you guys to prep for the Halloween special.
All Hallows Eve. God, I wish I was in 8th grade again.
Yeah.
Just raping and pillaging the neighborhood. Just running amok, breaking windows.
Pumpkin smashing.
Fuck. I'm surprised I didn't murder somebody. Thank God I went to a Catholic school.
Yeah, that obviously helped you a great deal. It's a good thing that you went there. Otherwise, you might have really turned out fucked up.
I know. No shit.
I told you the last time I ever went trick-or-treating was during the Halloween megastorm.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I had a great time that night, but haven't been back since, and now I just pass out candy.
Do you?
Yeah, and I don't put nails in it.
Are you, well, I shared that story. I don't mind. I'll fucking fuck with kids.
I'm looking forward to this one, though.
Good.
There's going to be a lot of people, out clubbing.
Yeah,
so
dressed up. Fuck yeah.
Right. It's not as big of a deal as like down in Anoka, the capital. I was talking to a friend of ours earlier. I talked to a baby girl earlier today who used to do our intros.
Yeah.
In the early days of the Bubs and T-Bag show. She
our Hamburg days. For
Anoka,
the Beatles fans.
Yeah. Where we were up every night. We would play 8 hours a night and, go back to bed and amphetamines, all kinds of things of that nature.
I think you're going down a fantasy world right now.
The Beatles did do that. They were on amphetamines hardcore back in the Hamburg days. It's true.
Well, aren't amphetamines very German anyway?
Yeah. They were actually taking, I think, leftover probably Nazi speed.
Well, Germans. Point. There's no such thing as Nazis. They're all fucking Germans.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that, sir.
Yeah, I'm a little touchy.
Gesundheit.
Sprechen Sie dick.
Yeah. No, so Anoka is her like stomping ground kind of. And I knew it, but I didn't know it was as big of a deal as it was. But that's like supposedly the Halloween capital. Anoka.
Oh, is it?
I guess. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not a big Halloween guy.
Yeah, she's, going to paint the town red tonight, so to speak, in the Halloween capital.
So she's trickered and treating.
She's going as a 1920s flapper.
Oh, that's a great costume.
I'm kind of got some mental images in there in my head. That's a decent girl costume, but a lot of the ones I see are usually girls kind of just dressed in like slutty outfits these days. That seems to be like the going thing.
It's Halloween and then add slut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can wear underpants or whatever if you really wanted to. I've never partied in Anoka on Halloween, although it sounds kind of fascinating.
I don't even, when I was growing up, I didn't even know where Anoka was. I knew they had great football and wrestling. Did they have good hockey? No, didn't care.
That was about it, huh?
Yeah. Drove through it, on the way somewhere, but never stopped there. That was not in my rotation. If I got east of fucking Hiawatha Avenue, I thought I was in Wisconsin.
I bet the Anoka like police and stuff like that have to do so much shit.
They're getting paid.
I know, but
just think of the drunken idiots with their smeared fucking clown makeup.
Right. Like what happens at the end of the night for those guys? It's just picking people up off the street, probably.
Yeah. Well, be adults, adults acting like children.
Good drunken Halloween stories if you're a young man, or a young woman. Be careful out there, everyone. Check your candy twice, 3 times if you must.
I gave away Old Milwaukee and Swisher Sweets one year on 55th and Penn. I lived at a house after college with a couple of buddies.
I bet the neighbors loved that.
We didn't even know it was Halloween, and then all of a sudden people started showing up. And so then I handed bottles of Old Milwaukee, and then we had Swishers and my buddies smoked Camels.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That would be a great Halloween bag if I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Got a beer and then maybe a crushed smoke.
A couple of cigarettes.
Yeah.
Just like an old military ration or something like that.
It made sense at the time. When you
remember the last time you ever went like trick-or-treating or like Halloween partying heavy duty?
Yeah, I had a coworker that had a party in my neighborhood. He lived. This is kind of a fucked up story, but
yeah.
I was supposed. I believe the Halloween that year fell on a Friday, and I had young children, and I went out, and I did the fatherly chore of walking along while they ran around amok in the neighborhood, and then I would bring probably 4 or 5 beers. Drink 2 or 3 beers out and drink 2 or 3 beers back. Made it to the house, and kids were tired, and one kid always stuffed all his candy in his pillow so his brothers wouldn't take it. And then I'm half asleep in a lazy boy. It's probably 9:30, and my wife goes, "Hey, isn't your coworker is having a Halloween party? You should go. You should at least show up." And I didn't want to go because I was tired and I was ready to go to bed. But I went, and I wore, I think I mentioned in a previous podcast, some Harry Potter goggles, some glasses, and that was my costume.
That's a great costume.
That's what I showed up wearing, and it was an adult Halloween party, and there was a lot of adultness, and there were women dressed, revealing. There was nurses and
seductively.
Yeah, the breastises were out, and things were whatever. It was fine. My wife didn't go, so
I'm enjoying myself.
And then there was a guy dressed as a doctor who had a doctor bag, and it was filled with Dr. McGillicuddy's shots, and I did every one of them. And I was like Frank the Tank, and I just kept drinking and drinking and drinking. And the host of the party was a shorter feller who was very muscular. And he painted himself green and wore some cut-off denim shorts, and he went as the Hulk. And he got really mad at me because I kept calling him Sprout.
I think
the Green Giant.
Do I know this guy?
You know this guy.
I think I know this guy.
Yeah, he really got mad at me, and and his wife was pissed at me and another guy because we peed all over their deck.
That's nice of you guys.
Yeah. And then
he should have known. Knowing this guy though, he should have known better.
Well, we were all young and stupid, and
right, dude. I was thinking like. I actually just thought of a Halloween story that it's actually not funny, but It's legit. I remember this was like, it would have been like 2002. And I don't remember if it was Halloween night itself or if it was like a day or two before and it was like the Saturday before it type thing. But there used to be a bar in downtown Minneapolis called the Lone Tree. Do you remember that place?
Oh, yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm from there.
Right. Well, I know. I've got to.
I was more of an uptown shitty fucking dive bar guy, but go ahead.
But yeah, this place was like really hot in the 90s and, like
where was
2000s.
it located?
Like right next door to Glick's, like wherever that is, 4th and Hennepin or 4th and 1st, or is it 5th? I don't know. I can't remember now.
Yeah, 4th maybe.
Either way, I remember going in there with a friend of mine. We were probably in our early 20s, and we had been at a couple of other bars that weren't really doing Halloween stuff. And then we went to the Lone Tree later with a couple of other people, and they had this kind of like dance floor in the basement. And I remember this one dude who was wearing like a full Native American kind of like stereotypical sort of costume. Yeah, I guess I would say
some
like,
buckskin and some feathers,
like fringy stuff on the outsides and like beads. And I think he had some sort of feathered type like headdress thing on.
Was he a Indian trying to hunt down fucking Hugh Glass?
This dude was quite white. Let's put it that way. He wasn't in any sort of makeup or anything like that I could remember. But he was dressed like that. And let's just say that he had quite a few doses or sips of the firewater that night. When I say a few, I mean he was stumbling, bumbling, fumbling into a lot of people.
So you remember him?
I do remember that because he kind of bumped into me a few times.
Did you get puffy?
Not really. No, it wasn't like that. You could tell that he wasn't doing it on purpose. And I was in the middle of talking to this dude I know who worked there, like just kind of making conversation off to the side of like the dance floor, like trying not to be bothered. Next thing I know, I don't see him again type deal. Go on with my night. Whatever happened. Can't remember really the rest of, there was nothing really eventful.
Were you living in town then?
Yeah, I lived in Southwest Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
I lived kind of by the high school, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow, that's my territory.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a Southwest hat, by the way, right?
Yeah. The old, why is there an Indian on it?
Because we were the Indians back in the 80s.
Well, that's not actually, no, that's not true. You're the Lakers, as far as I know. History has been sort of erased.
We'll go back into history later in the show.
We'll talk about things that get erased a little bit later. But no, the point is I remember seeing him being very drunk before that. And even making a comment, I think, to the friend of mine that I was talking to later that night, it ended up becoming like a really famous sort of like crime in locally.
How so? What do you mean?
Well, okay, to make a long story short, this dude who was in the Indian costume ended up probably falling or something like that off the Hennepin Avenue Bridge later that night.
And what's under the bridge?
The Mississippi River, baby. The old miss, the old man.
And this is probably whatever day that Halloween fell on. It's that weekend.
I think it was, I can't remember, like I said, if it was Halloween night or if it was the weekend, but
downtown was full of costumes.
It was a downtown like party Halloween night thing. Anyways, this kid supposedly wandered out of the bar later that night and fell off the Hennepin Avenue Bridge. And they didn't find him until the spring, basically. And it was a big like missing person thing for a while. They knew he was downtown. They knew he was drunk. They knew he went somewhere, but they didn't know if he got murdered or an accident happened or what. And I think it turned out that it was an unfortunate thing where he fell or something along those lines. But for like 6 months, the guy was missing. And it turned into this thing where people were speculating that there was like a serial killer going around Minnesota.
Well, it wasn't like a serial killer going around the region, right? Like Wisconsin.
It was somewhere
Smiley
like
face.
in the Midwest. Yeah, where they were like asking.
So I can remember that guy's face.
Yep. Yeah.
I remember
it's like a sad deal. You know what I mean?
It's terrible. Think of those parents. Your kid's drunk and fucking
right. And they didn't know where he was for like months.
And everybody's drawn to water when they're drunk.
Really?
Well, it seems like it.
Yeah.
I got drunk uptown one time and I ended up fucking skinny dipping in the fucking...
In Biddy-Makaska?
Well, I call it Lake Calhoun. It's always Lake Calhoun.
Excuse me. No, it isn't.
Well, fuck you. It's Lake Calhoun. That's what it is.
It is Calhoun.
Yeah, but you're skinny dipping, wasted out of your mind, swimming with some other friends. What would it take for somebody to cramp up and go under? But somehow we survived, I guess.
Unfortunately,
but, you don't want to fuck with the river.
Yeah, this guy didn't that day, and it
crazy.
turned into a big deal. But I remember that thing, like where he was still missing, they were starting to speculate towards the end about he could have been kidnapped or something. And then when they found him, it was somewhere near this weird sort of like urban legend, kind of like serial killer like theory that was, I think, pretty fringe. But there was a smiley face supposedly right near the area, like painted in graffiti on a piece of cement of the bridge or something like that. And, the internet weirdos at that point come out in droves, and they're trying to talk about how there's a smiley face killer going around in the Midwest who, captures college kids, takes them, and then like drowns them somehow and leaves a smiley face somewhere near, in graffiti near their bodies or wherever.
Well, I mean, if you're washing up the river, somebody falls off a bridge, and how far down was he found?
I don't think that far.
Yeah.
I mean, if he fell off of Hennepin Avenue, the Hennepin Avenue Bridge, he was only found he was found by like the Locket, like not far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He didn't make it over to St. Anthony Falls.
Maybe a quarter mile away or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, people
but there was
are
no
obsessed.
foul play.
No,
he didn't have his throat slit.
No,
and
it
his
wasn't
genitals
anything like
shoved
that.
in his mouth.
No, not anything that you would have been, looking for, obviously, with your internet searching from the sound of it. But
genitals in mouth.
He was the medical examiner or whatever decided that the guy had, fallen from the bridge or was pushed from the bridge or something like that, and then that's what killed him. But the smiley face thing lived on, and I ended up looking into it, and it became this big thing where somebody tied like 12 or some deaths, of like mostly college kids.
Who was that dude on TV whose kid was abducted that did all those shows?
That was America's Most Wanted, John Walsh.
Yeah. So didn't he do a show on that?
I think he did.
Yeah. So then I remember watching it on TV going like, what?
It was a big thing.
Yeah.
And it turned out, not to be true. I don't think that there's a smiley face serial killer out there. You would have known it by now.
Well, he switched. He's now the frown face killer down in southwestern
Is that
United
what he is?
States. Yeah.
He's doing it under a different
and
under
then
a
he'll
different
just have kind of
moniker
the plain face, and now he's the emoji killer.
You ever notice, dude, there really aren't serial killers anymore.
Can't do it.
I think
Technology.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's also kind of a bad thing.
I guarantee I could go out and do some serial killing. I could get 12 under my belt before they come find me.
Think so?
Yeah.
With like leaving a calling card type thing too?
Sure. Why not?
Right.
Literally a calling card. Fuck you. With a card.
That's it?
Yeah.
You just leave it every time at every scene?
Catch me.
Some of these guys left them. Some of them didn't. Like,
well,
I don't think like
stuff.
like Dahmer didn't leave anything, but he collected things.
What did he collect? Heads?
Yeah, like body parts and torsos and shit.
Come on, Ed Gein's the best. Skinning them.
Yeah, he did.
And one of my favorite songs, Slayer, Dead Skin Mask.
Was that about Ed Gein?
Well, it's a love song about his son and his mother.
What's wrong with Slayer?
Nothing.
I mean, writing a song like
Fucking nothing's wrong with Slayer. You don't get it. You're a Beatles fan.
You don't think they're maladjusted somewhere or something like that?
No, they're good Catholic boys.
Yeah, I doubt that, but
I bet they are.
Like Dahmer, I think he was more like taking trophies. He was trying to build like some sort of an altar, supposedly. Dahmer, though, did them all in his little apartment.
Yeah, he cut them up and shit, right?
And that's what...
Probably fucked pieces of them and wore them and
he did,
danced around.
But that's
like
what his
Ed
downfall
Gein.
was, because the people started smelling it.
Well, yeah, you can't... I mean, John Wayne Gacy had, 7 bodies underneath his floorboards.
More than that. He had it was like 30.
It wasn't 30.
Yeah, it was in the 20s. It really was.
Great artist.
Yeah, with his clown paintings.
Yeah.
I heard they fetch a pretty penny on eBay these
Sure.
days.
They should all be burned.
Yeah, so those guys did it in their house, and then like a guy like Ted Bundy, for example, he sort of went like all over the place. How many
Gacy
was
had
it? How many
26?
was it, instructor? 26 Gacy had.
Wasn't he with the Lions or the Elks Club and would recruit people? Yeah.
Yeah, he was with the JCs.
Yeah.
And then he also was like a manager at KFC, and he would bring like
Young man.
his buddies. Like, he also had like a construction company or something.
See, we all gloss over what he actually did to these guys. I mean, what did he do? Just kill them? No.
No, he had
raped them repeatedly.
Sexual encounters like the man
It's
line.
not sexual encounters. He's raping young men.
Yeah, I guess it is.
And that's how he got a
Once you
hard
put
on.
handcuffs on them and they say no, yes, you're right.
And then he smeared his clown makeup all over their ass.
At that point, it's not a sexual encounter.
No, it's not.
It's a bit forced.
No, but we all we gloss over it. Like Dahmer, what was he doing? He was fucking these people and cutting them up.
Yeah.
They're sick fuck.
They are. And then like a guy like Bundy, though, he did it like all over the Pacific Northwest and also in Florida.
Yeah. Well, he had to move. I watched that show on Netflix.
That was after he escaped from jail when he was on trial. Like he jumped out of a window on trial for basically being a serial killer, left through the window because he said he was doing library research, and then he resurfaces in Florida a few days later.
Well, he was advanced for his time, and the way he thought and the way he was acting. And I would imagine you have all these great stories of serial killers through the 70s and 80s, and law enforcement wasn't up to date or up to the speed. Maybe the FBI had a profile or something, but
they didn't have DNA.
They didn't have DNA. They didn't have the fucking communication. They didn't have surveillance. They didn't have all that shit. What now is you got to be pretty sly to go kill somebody.
Yeah.
You got to go into the ghetto.
You can't
go
move.
shoot somebody or drag them into a car or whatever you got to do.
Somebody that could theoretically sort of quote unquote disappear. You have to find like a target that
prostitutes.
Yeah, that will not necessarily be missed.
Raise suspicion, drug addicts.
But if you pull someone out of your, if you pull someone in your car or something like that under a camera outside of like a Target or a Walmart, they're going to note it, you know, eventually.
Yeah, well, they can go back and try to piece it together.
Right.
But you might be 30 days ahead of them.
I bet there's very few serial killers out there these days. I mean,
I bet there is. I bet they're out there.
A couple, but not like it was in the 80s. It seemed like they were popping up all over the fucking place.
It was the 70s and 80s. Yeah, they were everywhere. And then the 90s,
and 60s. Like I think the Zodiac guy started popping up in the 60s.
Yeah. Well, they're perfecting their trade.
That's a great movie too, by the way. Zodiac.
I mean, they never caught that dude.
Right, but the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr. and stuff, that's like a really, really underrated movie.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore.
Another one, though, that I watched a couple nights ago, I also think it's underrated, but obviously it's like a pop culture piece, was the 1984 original Nightmare on Elm Street with, Freddy Krueger, basically.
Was it England?
Yeah, Robert Englund.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like kind of his one. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff.
And then what was the detective's actor? It was Saxon.
He's like one of my favorites, John Saxon.
Saxon.
Yeah, he was like...
You know what? Saxon. I saw them with Judas Priest. Okay, continue.
Saxon, yeah.
Denim and leather.
Loincloths.
No, denim and leather.
John Saxon was in another one of my favorite movies called Enter the Dragon.
Oh, yes.
He was with Bruce Lee.
He's a character actor. It's been a lot.
He's the best, man. That guy was
Maybe we should follow him instead of Tom Cruise.
He's awesome, John Saxon.
Yeah.
I bet that guy had such a cool life.
I bet he got a lot of ass.
Totally.
Jesus. He was just slaying the boom.
In the 70s, can you imagine being like an actor like that and also like a karate expert?
Yeah.
I mean, he was all those things.
And he worked out.
Yeah.
He was in shape. Okay. A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes. So A Nightmare on Elm Street was an amazing movie. I thought, like, for its budget. I mean, you could tell it was cheap, but it's cool because the thing just opens and you can tell it's like a guy making it in his garage. It's just like somebody working on like Freddy Krueger's glove and like making it out, on like a bench vise or something like that and putting the glove together. And then it turns into this thing where all these kids basically start having bad dreams
that are interrelated.
Right. And they don't know exactly what's going on. And they're a little bit afraid to go to sleep. It's your typical sort of 80s kids in high school type motifs at that point. But one of the cool things is that this was Johnny Depp's first movie.
Yeah.
And
wait, what was he, 16?
Dude looked like he was, 16 years old.
Yeah. Jesus.
But it's definitely Johnny Depp. It's like he has like the same mannerisms and the way he talks and everything.
Yeah,
like
a little
that.
bit. Yeah. He looked a little young.
That was his first movie, and I think he had like one or two others, and then he had a small bit part in a really good movie, Platoon. He was like a translator in Platoon.
What about 21 Jump Street? When did that start?
That was like I think, shortly after his Elm Street thing. And supposedly he didn't like doing TV. So he got out of it and then started doing like these weird movies like, you know, Cry Baby and What's Eating Gilbert Grape and Edward Scissorhands. And, you know, they all, well, right. They were good movies, but he was really taking like, I think,
Hunter
chances.
S. Thompson.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was
Fear
a good
and
one
Loathing.
too. Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah.
But, I thought Nightmare, the original, was good. Man, there were some kills in that movie. That the first girl.
Yeah.
There's a girl named Tina who gets it in. I think she's the first sort of victim of Freddy, which, you know, you don't really see Freddy killing her. It's happening in a dream. So like she's basically just being thrown up all over a room, like covered in blood, and ends up getting like thrown into the ceiling and stuff like that. And it's really, really hardcore. That kind of set the tone for the movie for me. And then they go into these dream sequences a little bit where the kids are getting chased by Freddy. I don't know. Freddy Krueger over the years, right, over the last 35, 6, 7 years or whatever, has become an iconic villain or, you know, guy. It's almost a joke, like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, right? How many reincarnations of Freddy has there been, right? Several. A few, yeah.
6.
Probably, well, sequel-wise, yeah, a lot. But then he had, like, crossover stuff even,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah, and so they, you know, that Robert Englund or whatever his name was made a killing at it.
But
the character in this movie, I mean, he seems kind of bumbling and falling and not really with it in this dream sequences, and it was kind of weird. Like he pops up and he's super sharp, and then he runs down some stairs and he's not too good at it.
Yeah, he does run kind of oddly in the movie.
Yeah. But you know, I like the fact of this movie that interests me was you didn't know what reality was or what the dream sequences were, and then kind of overlapped, and then other characters who you thought were. There's no way they're involved because she's having a dream. Then all of a sudden it's reality and Freddy's there. You know, and there was some good brutality. You got to appreciate that. But I'm a little upset. You know, as a guy who I guarantee I saw this movie in 1984 when I was 14. I can tell you what theater I probably saw it at was the Boulevard because it was 50 cents then.
What upset you?
No boob.
Yeah, a little bit.
The good old school, slasher. Let's see some boobs.
There really wasn't much there. It was more they were going for the straight like terror.
Yeah, I mean there was a little in the tub when Freddy's hand comes up between her crotch and then she's like drowning in the tub.
That was Heather Langenkamp, I think, when she was
Yeah.
She was in a couple other ones and then on a few TV shows in the 80s and early 90s.
My favorite character though, besides Saxon, his character, the cop, is the mom of
what's her name?
I don't know what Heather.
I can't remember her name. Yeah. No, it's the mom of the
main
girl.
character. Who defeats
Heather Langenkamp.
Yeah. So her mom is always in the morning. She's having coffee with some vodka.
Yeah.
You know, and then you see her in the afternoon and she's chain smoking and drinking vodka, and then at night she's sneaking vodka and chain smoking.
But she's totally well put together, like prim and proper, like you would never think for a set.
Except it's the most walking around like she's carrying a football.
It's the most inaccurate description of an Elkie that I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's just stereotypical.
She looks way too good, though.
Yeah.
Like she's hot.
And I did a little research on the film, and they talked about the people that were getting killed had like sexual desires, you know. So the main two people that get killed right away in this movie, they're having sex, right?
Yep.
And
Tina was, yeah.
And then Johnny Depp's character wants to have sex constantly.
Yep.
Because he's a jock and a whatever.
Yep.
Male.
And he meets his demise in a very interesting way.
That was pretty well shot. I thought that was pretty cool. They must have shot that upside down and just spilled.
I think so, yeah. I think he basically gets sucked into his mattress and then explodes in like a fountain of blood all over the ceiling. And then his mom walks in when it's happening.
Yeah.
Like that's not dramatic.
Is that mom from 16 Candles? Was she the grandma?
It might have been.
And then the teacher, the woman who plays the teacher in the class, you know where she's from?
What?
Kingpin. Oh. She's the one that rents due.
Yeah. You shook something loose, Tiger.
That was
Woody Harrelson has to fuck her at some point.
Yeah, he's eating her
for
out
his rent.
For his rent. Yeah. Munson.
You shook something loose back there.
Yeah.
Tiger.
Nothing like sex to knock a shit loose.
I'd just as soon get Munson than man, that's a great movie. Yeah, I don't know. I thought Elm Street was good, but it led me down this other fucking path, dude. Where, so I decided to watch Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984.
Well, that's the one,
Right.
right?
And I enjoyed it, like we were talking about.
Can I just interject real quick?
Yeah, you can.
So last night, I'm trying to get Nightmare on Elm Street, right? And I'm
pulled up or whatever?
Yeah. I'm using whatever the fucking shit we got streaming. And sure enough, okay, I don't have to pay. Great. All right, whatever. There's going to be commercials, but it's fine. And then I'm watching it, and it starts, and I'm like, wait a minute. This isn't it. And it starts in some diner, right? And I stop it. My wife's like, why are you stopping us? I'm like, this ain't it.
This isn't it.
This ain't it. This is a Nightmare on Elm Street, filmed 2010.
Oh, the remake.
Yeah.
The remake.
So I just backed out of that. Went right to 1984.
I heard the remake is not good. Like, I've never heard, I guess, anything good about it. Who knows? I haven't seen it, but...
So that's my little tidbit of...
You started watching it, basically.
Yeah, and I was like 30 seconds in. I'm like, this isn't it. Where's Johnny Depp?
I'm glad... Yeah, exactly. Where's John Saxon? I don't see him anywhere
Yeah,
here.
that sexy motherfucker.
I'm glad you backed out of that one.
That guy got so much ass.
I never watched that one, but what I did watch was the sequel, which I've got to say... To you, to the instructor, to anyone else listening right now.
Yes.
Even if you don't watch Nightmare on Elm Street 1, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, might be worth a look. And here's why.
Okay.
I didn't realize
For those certain people?
Right. I didn't realize it. But there's no, like, girls in the movie, really. I mean, there's no, like, scream queens. It's not like a girl running in peril type thing. It's a guy running in peril. And this movie is... It's a gay, Bubs, it's a gay movie. Yes, it is.
Don't.
It is. It's 100% like a gay movie.
Okay.
And
this is filmed in 85?
85, yep. And
was Wes Craven the guy?
No, I think he passed it on to someone else.
Liberace?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Passed it on to someone like that.
Yeah.
And they decided to have their way with it. There's all kinds of just, I mean, at one point, the high school dude who's like, I think his name is Jesse or something. He's sleepwalking, walks out of the neighborhood. What's the first thing he winds up in after sleepwalking in the neighborhood? You guessed it, a gay bar.
Of course.
Yeah, right.
The Blue Oyster?
Yeah, he finds one of his teachers in there who then punishes him and makes him run laps. At that point, Freddy emerges and, kills the teacher in a very sort of like homoerotic way in the shower. I had no idea this movie existed.
I don't recall it at all, yeah. I must have blocked it
But it's
out.
weird because, Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm guessing in 84 even though it was low budget, it was a hit.
Nah, I don't, you know what? We watched it. I don't really recall much of it. Well, then later on, it became like an icon.
It was a hit enough for them to say, we need to make a sequel here ASAP.
Well,
because
they made Jason sequels. They made Halloween sequels.
This one departed so far from the original. It was really, really interesting and funny. It's not necessarily even a bad movie. There's some, kind of cool horror moments in it, but I had no idea it was like that. And while I was reading about it, like amongst people in the gay community, it's like this huge deal. Like they love Nightmare on Elm Street 2 for some reason.
Because it's gay.
I guess. Yeah.
And then gay.
If you get and check out Nightmare on Elm Street 3, it's like a early Patricia Arquette movie. Nope. They go back to formula there. Okay, and that one is actually, it might be the best one in the series. Okay. Like Freddy does a lot of interesting kills in that one.
Recently on maybe it was Prime, I watched Fall of the House of Usher. So that's Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you ever read any Poe?
I have, when it was forced on me in school.
Okay. Well, I've actually read it recreationally.
The Cask of Amontillado. I remember that one.
Yeah. Rue Morgue, Telltale Heart, The Raven.
Yeah. The Raven I've read.
The Fall of the House of the Usher is another story about a prominent family that falls apart and they all get killed. But this is set in modern times. And of course, right away, what's in it?
Two guys fucking.
Not that blatant, but it's implied. And then there's guys that have dates and guys that are talking about their male husbands. And you're like, this has absolutely nothing to do with the story. Why even interject this? But they have to. And I ended up watching it.
They have to for religious purposes.
Marxist.
Yeah.
Religious purposes.
Religious purposes.
Well, fuck the indoctrination of the 14-year-olds.
Yeah, it's a ritual.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
But anyway, the movie was actually good.
Anyway, I kept watching is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, I was waiting for the throat stuffers, but it never happened, and I was fucking pissed off, but
That's how things are, I guess, especially on Netflix.
You know, see, well, this one I think was Prime, but yeah, it's like you have to accept the fact. You know, there are plenty of shows where I just like all of a sudden it's gay, I turn it off.
Yeah.
I don't need that. I don't need to be fucking. I don't need trannies and all this shit.
You should watch the new South Park that came out a couple days ago.
Okay, tell me, talk to me.
All the main kids are replaced by black women, and
they all sound like Wanda Sykes.
A little bit, but it's really funny.
Yeah,
if you have Paramount Plus, the new South Park is actually really. It's like a special hour.
Maybe they're all like LaWanda Page.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
It is. It's. I only saw it once. I need to watch it again, but they seem to have hit the nail on the head with that kind of thing.
You know what I've got stuck
specifically bring up Netflix,
okay,
and Disney as well.
Oh, it's just sickening. But you know, like I got into Rick and Morty with my kids.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, and then they had some kind of dust up because the guy's accused of something, but so they got some other writers or something in there.
The creator, the guy who invented it, like some girl came out of the woodwork and said this and that. And
yeah,
I think it proved out it was untrue.
Yeah,
but he's still ruined. You know what I mean? He's still been dragged. So there you go.
But the show's funny.
The horror movies, the Halloween movies we watched this month, I've really, really enjoyed them. It has given me a bit of anxiety, though, where I'm kind of wondering to myself, hey, what the fuck am I going to do if a serial killer or if Michael Myers or Jason or Freddy or someone like that is going to try to fuck with me, come into my house, take what's mine, so to speak?
What are you going to draw down with?
That's the thing, man.
That's what we got to talk to our man.
That's the thing is I'm not an expert in those sort of things, which is why we brought the instructor here today to tell us a little bit about guns and ammo, people. We've got our first guest here on the Bubs and T-Bag show, the instructor. We have referred to him in the past. This guy is the real deal. When it comes to guns and ammo, he knows his shit. He is a professional firearms instructor. And on more than one occasion, he's been the first guy through a few doors. Let's put it that way. Great guy, the instructor. Anyone here who's thinking in these weird, trying times about getting a piece for themselves or for home defense, listen up, because we're going to break it down for you here. Welcome, instructor. Thank God you're here. Great to see you again, buddy. I got to say, welcome, welcome. Enjoy in Old Milwaukee.
Thanks for having me. Before we get into anything, I brought a little case here that I'd like to give you guys.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's take a look at that. What do you got here? You got an ammo case, it looks like.
It is an ammo case. Unfortunately, it's not ammunition.
You're opening the case up, and it looks like there's some sort of a bag in there. Oh, look at this.
Oh. It's
hey now.
mango habanero beef sticks from my local meat market.
Oh, amazing. We love gifts here on the Bubs and T-Bag show.
I've also got ghost pepper cheddar meat sticks.
Ghost pepper cheddar meat sticks.
Yep. Don't worry, it's not over yet. I've got some
amazing.
Yep. I've got some pepper bacon. From the same place.
Oh yeah.
There's only like $2 a pound, so it's the bits and ends, so it's kind of cheaper, but to me
that's all right, man.
It's the best. Something a little more personal. This is some canned corned beef that I made. It looks like absolute rubbish. It looks like something you might find in Dahmer's apartment, actually.
Yeah.
So
in his freezer, it does look a little bit like that. But what you're saying is this is the bomb, though, huh?
Yeah, it's really good. It's canned corned beef. It holds well. I just made it last St. Patrick's Day.
What would you say to warm it up? Just put it in a pot and just kind of steam it up?
Yeah, you can nuke it in the microwave. You can throw it in a crock pot, pan, whatever. It just needs to be heated. It's already cooked. So
it'll work,
it's good
though.
To go. Yep.
That's the instructor's homemade recipe.
Yep, indeed. And then I've got a couple cans of salsa here as well. They're a little more mild. They're not too spicy.
Thank you, instructor. We're going to have a gift for you on the way out the door, too, by the way.
Why, thank you.
So listen, we were wondering, these in this day and age, things are a little strange. Kind of socially, politically, things of that nature. People are worried about personal protection. A lot of people that maybe even were never worried about that before. They're starting to think, what do I do here to keep my home and my family safe? I'm one of those people too. You know, I'm not an expert on any of this shit. So we wanted to ask you, let's start off with, for someone like me, what do you think I should do if it was just step one? Where it's, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I want to get something for my house. What do I need to get? Do I need to get a handgun? Do I need to get a shotgun? Do I need to get a rifle? If so, where do I start?
Sure. Yeah, so kind of the thing that I like to think about is, one, what am I willing to risk? Worst case scenario, am I willing to risk a potential, lethal force encounter with somebody who's going into my house? Am I willing to risk, if I don't decide to get a firearm, am I willing to risk, any sort of harm upon my family? If I don't have a family, is it easier for me to get out? If I do have a family,
Sure.
that's kind of, not so much of an option just because, you got to corral people and get them out. So for a lot of people, I think it's, it's got to come down to risk, and it's got to come down to education as far as people educating themselves on what is good for them on the individual level.
What if it's a guy with a stay-at-home mom, wife, and he's got 2 kids? This is a guy who maybe can't, oh shit, they're coming, I can't run out the back door and try and call the police type thing.
Yep.
It's a guy who's, hey, I gotta stand my ground here and maybe try and defend my family.
Sure.
For a guy like that, what's he in the market for in terms of purchasing a firearm or ammunition? If he's a guy going, hey, I'm not going to let this happen to me or my family. They're not going to be victims.
Yeah, absolutely. I think first kind of where you got to start out is, okay, what kind of weapon platform do I want to have in the first place?
Sure.
Even prior to weapons, like, hey, do I want to have some sort of deterrence as far as like cameras, whether they're real, fake? Do I want to, have any sort of things outside my house that would maybe deter somebody even prior to that point?
Like a sign or something
like
that?
Yeah, maybe. Signs can kind of be taken, one of 2 ways. You see the, this house protected by Smith & Wesson,
Sure.
That's just a clear giveaway that you have guns in your house.
Right.
And if somebody wanted to scope you out, potentially they kind of know where the stuff is at. Yeah, kind of the first thing you want to think about, at least what I want to think about, is, okay, again, what is the intent of whatever platform I decide to choose? If we're talking strictly about firearms, then, hey, do I want a pistol? Do I want a rifle? Do I want a shotgun?
What do you think it would be for like, a guy who doesn't have a gun? Out of the 3 of those, what's the best one for a dude in like a single family home, do you think?
I would say a rifle for
Really?
for several reasons. One, obviously the ease of use. Ease of use as far as like shootability, if you will. And I say that with quotations because, for a new shooter, it can kind of be intimidating if somebody's never really done any shooting before. A shotgun can be intimidating because it sometimes, depending on the load that you're shooting, can be a little bit much if you don't really know what you're getting into and you just
Sure.
end up blasting slugs or buckshot or whatever. A pistol can be, with a pistol, there's kind of a big learning curve. They're not obviously as accurate as a rifle. So, hey, how much time am I willing to put into this weapon system? So for me, it would probably be something, a rifle.
Like an AR?
Yeah, an AR platform rifle would be my number one choice for people who are, one, trying to get into it. But then, you got to think about budgets and, what are people willing to spend on these sort of things and how much can they afford and, ammunition and then training and all that stuff too, which really becomes important.
What do you think for the unseasoned kind of listener here? They're going to decide to get themselves an AR-15, an AR-10, something along those lines where they're buying an AR platform rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea, just ballpark, what they can maybe expect to pay to put something like that together, or maybe just even grab right off the shelf if it's a pre-made rifle like that?
Yeah, you're probably looking at, and again, if we're talking about something that is used to protect yourself or your family, it's like, hey, I'm probably going to want to spend a little bit more. I'm probably going to want something that has a little bit of quality as far as craftsmanship, how it's made, how it performs. I always talk about QA, QC from companies like, hey, if I have a problem with my stuff, can I get it back to you? Can I know that you're going to help me out and fix an issue if I have an issue with this firearm?
Sure.
So those things kind of become big, but I would say anywhere from like the, low thousands to, low 2000s range.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to probably be dumping, if you're going to get an AR platform for your first thing, you're going to be using it for home defense,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously trying to train up on it at some point to make yourself familiar with the weapon. Expect at least $1,000 probably.
Yeah, and that's just for the weapon system itself. And the big thing for me is always like, hey, it's cool if you have a bunch of guns or you got the latest and greatest add-ons and all that stuff. That's cool, but do you know how to use the weapon in its lowest form, basically with iron sights, and basically come in stock from the manufacturers? Like, hey, do I even know how to operate this thing? And if the answer is no, I would suggest to people like, hey, seek out some training. Obviously, go to a gun range, and if you live in an area that has one, you can talk to people that, are kind of a little bit well-versed. I've also found with that too, you do have to vet your instructors. You do have to vet the information.
Probably nowadays a lot too. I bet there's a lot of people out there, throwing their sort of name out there as like a pro or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big market for that, and the law enforcement, self-protection, military community, and some people think that just because you have one of those titles, it kind of makes you an expert, but in actuality, as we all know, that's not necessarily the case.
Not the case, sure. What do you think? Let's say I'm the guy who goes out, I get that AR. I go to the store. I've got, I'm the guy with the family of 4. I'm not up on guns or ammo or anything like that, but I go to the store. First, you got to get your permit to purchase, I would guess, if you're in Minnesota, so you can go and pick the gun up and, take it home that day. That takes a little bit of legwork with your local police or sheriff's department. But you go to the store and I buy the Colt or the JP or whatever 223 AR-15 clone or rifle that they're selling there.
Mm-hmm.
What's my next step at that point? I got to get ammo. I probably got to buy some other odds and ends here and there. I'm guessing like hearing protection, probably eye protection. Once I have those in place, do you recommend somebody buying a rifle off the wall like that and then thinking, hey, I need to go to a range and use this, right? I mean, that's like a logical course of action, I would assume, right?
Yeah. I just, what kind of, it doesn't worry me, but what I'm concerned about with people when they purchase a firearm is like, okay, now I have it. Now it just goes and sits in my house.
Sure. And, yeah.
I've checked that box of, okay, yeah, I've got a rifle here. And the problem is, do I know how to use it? If you go to YouTube and ask, how should I carry my rifle? It's, you're probably going to get 100 different opinions. So.
And they're all going to be extremely like, here, my way is the right way type thing. Don't listen to this guy deal.
I think the gun community's come a fair amount over the last 10, 20 years where there's not as much of that. It's not so adversarial as maybe it used to be, but you're going to get a little bit of that. But I think in the end, you just got to ask yourself, hey, how much money do I have? How much time do I have? What am I willing to put forth to kind of not even master this thing, but become proficient with it?
At least operate it a little bit.
Yeah, become proficient with this thing and, figure out how it works, how to fix it if there's a malfunction, how to load it, how to unload it, safe weapons handling, all that stuff.
Practice-wise, something within 30 yards?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, if, it depends how heavy you want to nerd out about that stuff. But,
right.
For me, it's like, hey, I'm thinking about what is the longest shot I would have to take into my house? And then, when you think outside of that, it's like, okay, what if I had to engage somebody outside of my house? And then what would that distance be before they would get, some form of cover or concealment? So it's hard to answer some of those questions. But I think, the first thing is like, okay, what is the most probable thing that's going to happen? Just being aware of, crime in your neighborhood, crime in your city. Are burglaries even a thing for you? If they're not, I want to consider worst case scenario stuff. If somebody tries to break into this house, again, it's really how much time do you want to put forward? So
what do you think for caliber wise? If I bought that AR, just go 223 because it's what everybody has, or do you get like 300 blackout or something, or 308, or do you start basic at that point? If you're going to get an AR and you don't really know what you're doing, get a 223.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the standard option for most people. Just, availability of ammo, cost, different sorts of payloads that you can purchase. Ammo's come a long way, but 5.56 223 is kind of a baseline for when it comes to that stuff. If you start to get outside of that, then you're probably more well versed than the average user. If you're doing your 6.5s or any 300 blackout stuff with suppressors or anything like that, like you probably know your know your shit a little bit at that point. Yep, indeed. Sure. But and I don't want to limit it just to a rifle. That would just be my personal first choice. If I had only one choice, it would be the rifle. Shotguns are good options. Pistols are good options. It's just, hey, you just have to be aware of, some of the cost-benefit stuff that comes with these things and plan accordingly.
Do you have any brands that, I'm not asking you to necessarily cut a commercial or anything like that, but do you have any that you really like that you think are great for somebody who's, starting out? I mean, with handguns, shotguns, or long guns like rifles?
Sure. Yeah, I think, just kind of starting from the smallest caliber. As far as pistols go, Glock is kind of the gold standard for pistol stuff. When I first started working, that's not what I always shot, but I've came to love it. It's a good weapon platform. There's tons of, aftermarket additions that you can get, whether it's, upgraded this or better that, whatever. They've come a long way. So I think Glocks are a really good option. They're relatively moderately priced. I think you can get into a stock Glock 17, the 9mm for, I want to say it was like $540.
A new Glock?
Yep,
you could
brand new.
Still these days,
Yep.
you can get it for under $600
Yep,
probably?
Yep, under 600. I think 540 was the number that I found most recently. So that, that's not a bad price.
Not a bad deal at all.
For a weapon system like that, is tried, true, it's been around forever, tons of modifications that you can get with it. I think, that's the standard option.
If a guy comes through your front door,
Better to have it not need it than
the Glock 17 9mm.
Yeah, yep. That would be my number one choice.
Sure.
For pistol stuff, calibers, we can get into a big caliber argument, but again, it comes back to availability, cost, payload, like all that different thing. And ammunition has come a long way in the last 20, 30 years, and I'm by no means an expert on ammunition, but my choice would be 9mm.
Sure.
Let's talk about the most important thing, and that's shot placement. And what really gets you good shot placement, and that goes back to kind of the training thing.
Sure.
Where it's like, hey, am I even able to put these rounds where I want them?
Are there any people on YouTube that you really recommend, like watching or anything like that, or is that not really your deal?
No, I kind of nerd out on some of that stuff. There's
what do you like Hickok 45?
I don't even know what that is. I could probably.
He's
I
like
could
some
probably
old.
surmise.
He's like some old guy that does guns.
A lot of shooting from the hip and shooting pumpkins and whatnot.
Yeah,
like, hey, that would be somebody's head exploding.
He's one of those guys. Yeah,
and that's cool too. Like, hey, whatever, to each their own. But I think there is one YouTube podcast that I listen to a lot. It's called Primary and Secondary. Those guys extremely well vetted. There's a lot of good experience as far as huge area of topics, whether it's law enforcement stuff, military stuff, home defense stuff. They have lawyers on. They got tons of people that have
right.
a
They're
lot
giving
of
you real world sort of solutions to that stuff.
Yeah, there's tons of it out there.
Primary and secondary.
Yeah, primary and secondary. Yeah, I know
okay.
the guy who came up with that company. And
interesting.
They run a really good podcast, and they have really good topics, really good people that go there. That's one of my big ones that I listen to. I've considered them a well-vetted source throughout my time kind of in this business. There are some individual names out there. I don't know if I want to throw individual names up.
Yeah,
but
no
there
problem.
is. I mean, there is some really good stuff out there where it's like, hey, these people are legit. They're well-versed. They are experienced.
Throw a name out.
My favorite is Chuck Pressburg.
Okay.
Yeah. Chuck Pressburg. He is. It's called Press Check Consulting is his company. I really adore this guy. He's got a lot of really good information, and I'm not going to lie to anybody. I am not on this guy's level at all. So I take a lot of his stuff and just like, man, I really like the way he presents information, his experience.
Would he be able to present it to like kind of a noob for them to get stuff out of it too?
I don't know all the courses that he offers. I know the ones I know of are not beginner courses. It is more advanced.
Sure.
But yeah, he's somebody that I've always listened to. I've never attended one of his courses, unfortunately, but man, this guy, he puts out a lot of good stuff, and he contributes often to the primary and secondary modcast.
Okay, so he's around there too.
Yeah,
huh?
Yep. There's a lot of people out there. It's obviously a non-exhaustive list of my opinion of people, of weapon platforms. It's always evolving, so that's kind of cool.
We really appreciate your expertise here today. I'm also wondering, is there anything that maybe the listener would need to know about in terms of just Minnesota stuff? Minnesota's got some fucked up gun laws, in my opinion. And is there anything somebody would need to know in terms of, let's say that tomorrow, for example, they wake up and for whatever reason things are happening, or they just decide, hey, I need to get an AR today.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to get one. I've never bought one, but I've got to get one.
Yep.
What does somebody like that need to, have in place for them to walk into a gun store and walk out of there with an AR-15 or an AR-10 or some type of rifle platform like that?
Yep. In Minnesota, there's a permit to purchase, there's a permit to carry, and then there's, kind of if you don't have either one of those, there's certain weapons that you can or can't buy. So you're going to have to kind of figure out exactly like, hey, what do I want? Do I want to, what is considered to be by the ATF a short-barreled rifle? If that's the case, then I'm going to have to get a federal tax stamp for that thing. Or, if I do want a suppressor, I'm going to have to pay a fine and, again, go to the feds and figure out like, hey,
Can I please exercise my Second Amendment right here, sir?
Yeah, exactly. So again, it depends on what you want to carry as far as whether you're going to need a permit to purchase.
At a minimum, though, you probably would need like a permit to purchase.
Permit
right?
to purchase is kind of the baseline,
which is you're gonna have to get that from your local police or sheriff.
Yeah, it's usually one or the other, depending upon the county that you live in. So they'll kind of give you if you just Google search like, hey, I live in XYZ city. What do I need to purchase this weapon platform?
And for the most part, from what I understand, it's been a little while since I've gotten one. From what I remember, you go to your police station and it's free.
Yep, if you are getting a permit to purchase,
right.
it is free.
You walk in, you say, hey, I need to get a firearms permit thing. I'd like permission to exercise my Second Amendment rights, sir.
Yes.
May I have another type deal?
Yeah, so you can do that, and then you can go into a gun store without a permit to purchase for certain weapon platforms.
Certain things.
Yep, certain things, and then they do a background check kind of on the spot, and that can take anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes, depending upon.
And from what I know, like you could get a rifle that day, but it's going to have to be like a bolt action rifle without a pistol grip or something like that, or a shotgun without a pistol grip. You could walk out that day.
Yeah, there's certain criteria that Big Gov looks at as far as, hey, what, does this weapon platform exceed kind of what we want people to have without a certain permit? So, pistol grips, short barrels, butt stocks, all that stuff.
Okay. Well, good to know. Thanks a lot for, giving us kind of a crash course here on what to get for home defense. You guys heard it here first from the instructor, a man who does this for a living. He's recommending AR. If you're a sort of a noob and you want to get into home defense, I agree. I think it's a great platform. Bubs, what do you think, buddy?
So when I was coming over here tonight to the Ponderosa,
I
had a friend of mine reach out to me, a guy I grew up with and I hunt with.
Yep.
And he wants to know what you think about a deer hunting caliber in a handgun. So, you got your 454s, 44 Magnum, but he was more maybe that Glock 10 millimeter.
Again, you're going to have to...
and a close distance. It's not 200-yard shots.
Okay,
it's 50 yards.
So we're not talking about the 5.56 223 without a butt stock, pistol brace
no,
stuff? Okay,
no, we're talking traditional handgun.
Okay.
And not a revolver.
The Sonny Crockett special.
Okay.
He's looking into the a semi-automatic caliber that's doable. Oh. Anything that pops in, you don't have to say tactical, all this shit. No. I'm just talking, what comes across for you?
For me, it would, only because I've carried one before in bear country, a 10 millimeter Glock, a Glock 10 millimeter.
Gen
but
3.
that was only because that's what somebody else told me to carry. And I did a little bit of research on it, and it came back to that, hey, the thing is not what caliber you carry. It is where can you put those rounds on said creature that is trying to pull a...
But this is a deer.
Pull a revenant.
We're
not talking grizzly bears and
we're
going
talking
back to
deer.
the revenant?
No,
okay.
Deer
only.
Deer only.
I honestly, I do not know. I do not know anybody that hunts deer with a pistol. And I've seen the big revolvers with the scopes and all that stuff, but I have no knowledge of that whatsoever because all my experience is either rifle or shotgun. So.
But a bear gun... 10 millimeter would work.
Yeah, and again, that goes, and you're going to get a lot of disagreement. We're talking about deer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not intruders. Not trespassers.
No, I don't think
I knife the trespassers.
Now, can I throw a question back at you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Why pistol? Why do they want to shoot a pistol?
He's just looking for something different. He's been hunting for 30 plus years and he deer hunts and maybe go grouse. So he's just looking for something light to carry.
Okay. Yeah.
Sit in a deer stand for 3 or 4 hours. He doesn't want a rifle.
Yeah. Honestly, I do not have a good answer.
His longest shot would be 40 yards.
I have no experience with pistol deer hunting stuff, so I couldn't answer that one. Sorry, Frank.
10 millimeter round though, quality. Have you shot it?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
I've never shot it at a bear, but luckily. But again, that was kind of the talk of the town when I was going out to bear country.
Where were you at in bear country?
I was in the Bob Marshall Wilderness.
Oh yeah,
area.
fuck yeah.
I think you may have actually probably heard about that trip from one of our other mutual friends that I was on it with. But it was fun. We did see bear track. We didn't see any bears or anything like that, but we did hear people firing shots at night.
Well,
Which and it's
Yeah.
like, but yeah, that trip was that I don't want to say I was in over my head because we came out all right without any issues, but it could have gone south pretty quickly.
in what way?
You could die there.
Yeah. Just because, hey, you're 30 miles in. If somebody, gets hurt, twists an ankle, like that's a big deal. Here it's like, oh, yeah, just hump it over to the, urgent care or whatever, and no big deal. But when you're that far in, we actually, I think it was the first or second day that we were hiking in. We saw a group of guys coming out, and one of them had like his eye patched up, and his buddies are kind of walking him
So
out.
a branch hit him in the eye or something?
Oh yeah, he was skipping over a little creek, and he slipped on a log and went down, hit his face on a branch that was sticking out on a big log, and messed his eye up. And they were like, "Hey, we were on our first day in. We were planning a 10-day trip, and now
Bob fucked it all up because he's
done.
fucking sloppy.
Yeah, we are done now."
Yeah, fuck Bob.
So, but yeah, stuff like that, you just got to kind of be careful. But again, tell your friends, sorry, I don't have any experience shooting pistol calibers at deer.
9mm seems like a versatile round nowadays. A modern 9mm, has that got more, compared to 25, 30 years ago, the stopping power or at least energy on impact?
Yeah, and there's no, I always tell people that too. Like, hey, when I started out in the profession, I was like, 45,
Yeah, fuck
and
yeah.
then I tried to shoot it.
The spinner.
And then I tried to shoot it and realized how terrible I was. I was like, oh boy.
It is carrying a boat anchor and throwing ashtrays at people.
Yeah. How much of it is it inexperience, and how much of it is like, hey, this is too much for me to handle. I think it was probably a combination of the two when I was a brand new person in that field of work.
Coming up, we have the deer hunting season.
Indeed. Yeah.
We have 450,000 hunters going into the woods November 4th on a Saturday to hunt. A lot of those people don't practice.
Sure.
A lot of those people, maybe, let's just use a third. A third practice, a third have some rudimentary knowledge, and then a third have no idea what the fuck's going on.
Yep.
Personal defense, handgun, rifle, shotgun, whatever you're going to choose in your castle, man, you got to be in that third that's practiced, right? You got to be in that third that can reload that weapon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it always goes back to like, hey, where do I want to be? You think about the rule like 80-10-10, where it's like, hey, 80% of the people in a certain group are, they're just here to be here. They're here to like get along. It's great. 10%, 80% of them are that. 10% of them are your top tier, great people. And then you have your bottom 10% is like, hey, where do you want to be? Where do you want to be as a gun owner? Do I want to be those normal, like, people in the middle? Do I want to be the bottom 10 that are like the worst ever? Absolutely not. I want to excel at it. I want to protect whatever it is that I'm purchasing that gun for in the first place. So you got to think about that stuff.
I just reflect on you can't take back once that thing's fired, right? Hunter safety, you look back at hunter safety when you're 12 or 13 or whatever.
Yep. It's like, hey,
you cannot take that back.
Especially in 2023 and moving forward, like, hey, I am doing absolutely everything I can to not, like, hey, if you find yourself in a situation that you need to use that thing, it is such a political era where it's like, hey, if you find yourself in that situation, somebody is going to be looking to jam you up for that.
Yeah, and then legal representation, maybe being a part of some organization that has attorneys on retainer for you.
Yes, yeah. If you can, do your research on that. Again, I just can't speak to it because I've got kind of my own stuff that goes with that. But
I think you have to.
Yes, you.
If you're going to carry, you should have the ability to protect yourself legally.
Yeah, and again,
I carry more now. Than I did, let's say, 3 months ago.
Sure.
And for whatever reason, the hairs on the back of my neck are up, and I'm carrying more.
Yeah.
And where I live, maybe not, but maybe it'll be at the bank or the liquor store or the fucking whatever. But I always see myself somewhere. It's going to happen while I'm here.
Again, hey, what do you?
I don't want to have to go tackle them.
What are you willing to risk? At all. What are you willing to risk if I don't do it?
Well, I was just going to say thanks. My buddy Lefty, who I hunt with, had the 10mm question.
Yeah.
And he appreciates you. I'll shout out to Lefty right now, and I'll tell him to his face, you go get a handgun. Let's say you get that Gen 3 10mm Glock. Well, you know what, motherfucker? Practice with it.
Yeah, get some ammo,
and get
man.
to where
Go
you can shoot 40.
Go shoot.
Shoot 10.
Yep.
Become proficient.
Yep. Does Lefty want to shoot open sights, or does he want to use optics, or what? What's he think?
I don't know.
Then I would definitely recommend, Red Dot for any pistol platform. You can get into them for under $400.
The sight itself?
Yeah, the red dot. And
okay,
again,
what? Give me 2 or 3 brands.
Hollison is kind of,
have they stepped up a little bit?
They've come a long ways from when they first came out.
Yeah.
They're kind of the new. I don't want to say the standard because it is a company that's overseas.
Yeah.
But they have been.
Initially, it wasn't.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, like Delta Point, Leupold Delta Point Pros and the RMRs and. SIG's got some stuff that's been in
for the handgun.
Yep. Just talking pistol stuff.
Are they all similar in design, so the holster systems will work?
Yes, there are definitely. From what I know of the holster manufacturers now, usually it's like, hey, is this thing red dot capable or is it not?
Okay,
but
I know T-Bag is going to come at you with some very specific questions, but I'd like to really thank you for coming in.
No, thanks for having me.
Thank you for the. Basically for the tribute that you've brought us.
Indeed, yeah.
Yes, I feel like some kind of warlord that you brought us tribute.
Yes.
And I appreciate that. And then T-Bag will talk to us about a very specific question, I guess.
Indeed. Yeah, I knew what was going to happen to me if I didn't bring gifts.
I wanted to ask you one more question, if you don't mind. And it's actually related specifically to a specific weapon platform. Basically the Colt 1911 handgun.
Yep.
The sort of famous, one that has been in many, many movies and was, a military sidearm forever and ever. And it's still around today. But I'm wondering, best practices carry-wise. I am not trained up on this weapon platform really at all. I know a little bit about some other ones like like Beretta 92 and stuff like that, which is totally different. But what I'm wondering is, from a carry perspective, I haven't looked this up really, but I'm just kind of wondering because it feels natural.
Yep.
I'm carrying this thing with one hot in the chamber.
Yes.
And the hammer is pulled all the way back.
Yes.
And the thumb safety is engaged.
Correct.
And then when I'm doing the draw, that thumb safety is coming out on draw. Is that how is that sort of what's going on? Or no?
So
because it can be easily done one-handed with this weapon.
Yeah, with any sort of modern holster, usually the tops are open, so there's no flap really that's covering the pistol grip.
Right.
And there are some still that are out there. You look at the old like military style holsters that had the flap cover over the top where you could not access that safety with the flap. But any open top holster, whether it's a inside the waistband, whether it's outside the waistband, most of them now, at least the reputable ones, are open top where you can actually disengage the safety as you are getting, what I always refer to as your master grip. On that pistol. So as I'm grabbing it in its holster, that safety is disengaging.
You're already turning the safety down.
Yep, it's part of the draw process. Okay.
I was just curious because I've always wanted to sort of learn to train with that type of handgun. I just haven't, and it seems like a bit of a journey to me. And I'm looking forward to it.
It is because, the 1911s, they have that short trigger, that, 3-pound, tiny little.
Yeah, very interesting.
Just not
and
much.
It's a nice, heavy, like frame and everything.
It is indeed. It's a beautiful weapon platform. It was really good. It's just, I don't want to say it's outdated, but the technology has advanced so far that I'm not going to say it's obsolete by any means, but...
Are there any dudes who are like real high-speed operator types that carry like tricked-out versions of that still?
Yeah, so...
a few?
Yeah, so kind of the new hotness is... so these are, 1911, and then kind of the newest thing that I'm aware of lately is the 2011, so it's a 1911 style body, but in 9mm.
No kidding.
Yep, so they call it the 2011. Staccato is kind of the big one that's relatively affordable for
is it a double stack magazine?
Yep, yeah, it's double stack. Yep, and then kind of the creme de la creme with those is like Chambers Customs, but you're gonna spend
like $5,000 or something.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah,
really, just for a handgun, huh?
Yeah. But again, because if you want the like sure thing of a Glock mixed with the light trigger press of a 1911, like you have to pay for it because they don't really exist.
Hey, also to the instructor, sir, thank you so much for, the info right there about that, as well as everything else you've given us tonight in terms of firearms instruction.
Indeed.
Very valuable. Thank you so much for coming by. Great to see you, by the way.
Yeah, good to be here.
And Thanks for the gifts, brother. Can't wait to
Indeed.
dig into some of those.
Again, just get past the optics of it.
Hey,
It's actually really good.
I'm looking forward to the corned beef, buddy.
It's good.
I seriously am. And thanks for the beers too, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Bubs, get your ass back over here. Hurry up. I got to say, these old Milwaukee's sure helped tonight, Bubs.
I agree, and it's I'm thinking of back to Nightmare on Elm Street in those days and Halloween and old Milwaukee is a theme for me.
Old tennis shoe?
Yeah, it is. Old tennis shoe. That's what we called it.
I bet Halloween in the 80s was like so much funner than Halloween in 2023.
I don't know if it is. I think, there's a lot of adults that are in their 20s that are so-called adults that fucking practice Halloween. When by the time I got in my 20s.
Yeah.
No.
I can't wait to see all the girls tomorrow night that are just basically wearing nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 2 hairdos.
When I'm at work, yeah.
2 hairdos.
Because that's how it is for them now.
It is. Slut it up, right?
I think it still is like that. Yeah, Halloween is kind of like all bets are off.
I do remember going to a Halloween party at 26 in Lindale, and it was one of my buddies went as Rick James.
Right by the CC Club. Did you go was it there?
Well, I was behind it. It was the house behind it, and then he went as Rick James.
Super freak.
Well, he wasn't black.
He did Ralph Northman or Ralph Northam or whatever,
Well,
whatever that governor was who wore a KKK outfit.
No, he painted it up, and he had a great suit, and he had long-ass Jerry curl hair on, and some black people that were at the party got real angry and wanted to fight him. But
Did they really?
Yeah, he was the wrong guy to fight.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And he was so dark with his body paint that he
Yeah.
would stand under these stairs, and you'd only see him when he'd open his eyes. That's a fucked up Halloween.
That really is blackface, isn't it?
Yeah, he was
quite literally.
He was dark face. I don't even know if we can put this on, but
we probably can. We can
Can
do
we?
whatever the fuck we want,
yeah.
Bubs.
I'm just recurring. We're talking about histories. Hey, this is way out of fucking left field, but my son had his wisdom teeth taken out on Monday, and so we sat at home. I sat with him, and we watched probably 8 hours straight of the Trailer Park Boys. You ever watch that show?
Yeah, yep.
And my favorite character is Mr. Leahy,
He's great.
the ex-cop who's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And
his boyfriend, Randy Bobandy.
Oh, my God. Shirtless, white jeans.
Just loving the cheeseburgers.
Whoever wrote that show for like the first 4 seasons are geniuses.
I think those guys did. I think it was just those guys.
I don't know, but
dumbasses.
man, Mr. Leahy, that actor,
he is dead now.
Yeah, he passed away.
Yeah,
But my God,
He
dude,
was funny.
he is the character on that show.
he's pretty good. I
Yeah.
mean, for me,
Just
for
entertainment.
For me,
Yeah.
Bubs, it's Bubs.
It's the shit winds are coming, Randy. The shit winds are
For
coming.
me, it's Bubs.
Yeah. Bubbles, yeah.
Yeah, he's my favorite.
Yeah, no,
for obvious reasons.
Mr. Leahy. I can't get enough of Mr. Leahy.
Ricky always reminds me kind of like a Canadian sort of bootleg version of Kenny Powers.
Yeah, in a way,
I mean?
yeah. But
Like,
yes. Kenny Powers is a great character.
we should almost watch the entire series, like just kind of randomly, and then interject once in a while with Eastbound and Down. Like
I
that.
love Eastbound and Down.
Especially
I worked with Eastbound and Down.
Stevie.
I worked with Kenny Powers for fucking 7 years.
Yeah.
I worked with that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was my partner for 7 years. I love that guy.
Yeah. Kenny's a good guy.
Yeah. Cock forward. I'm sorry I went off the rails. We're talking like serious Halloween stories.
All 4 months, all 4 seasons of that show for me, all 4 seasons were like, gold. Like it never got bad in my opinion. It got weird at points, but like once, I mean like the Will Ferrell stuff where he was like the car salesman guy who sold like Kias.
I took my youngest kid
I'll
out
sell fucking Kias.
when he was learning how to drive. He's 15 and we're learning how to get on an entrance ramp onto the highway. And we had all watched Eastbound and Down. And I'm like, accelerate. You got to accelerate. I want to feel it in my plums. And then he would go back and around. I'm like, oh, I felt that in my plums.
Got a bluish hue.
I feel that in my plums.
Getting ready to take him to farmer's market.
I had a shout out, though. I had through the grapevine, some other fans had reached out to my wife to talk about our show, and they loved it.
That's nice. Thank
Yeah.
you to whoever those people
It's
are.
Stan and Kim.
Stan and Kim.
And
You guys are
Stan
all
worked in the
right.
business, and he's a great guy. And right now he's at a bait shop working.
Stan, hang in there, buddy. Thanks for listening. Also, Kim as well. Thanks a lot. You guys are the best. Appreciate it. And we'll try to remain being humorous as well as topical and also offensive from time to time. So,
Extremely offensive. I think that's the
we
best route.
sometimes exceed at that. So I've had a little bit of hate mail on X lately.
Well, like for what?
You know, just people commenting on me and my 2 cents.
Weren't you talking about something with history and shit getting erased?
Yeah, the other day was that statue of Robert E. Lee.
Yeah, it was a couple days ago. After, before Halloween.
So when I saw this, I went like, wow, at this point, we really are at war. And I'm not from the South. I don't have an axe to grind, with anything to do with, the Stars and Bars or the Civil War or anything like that. It's not like that at all to me. But when I see someone take a monument that's almost 150 years old, remove it, and then shoot a 4K video of close-ups of you basically doing a ISIS-style beheading video of a statue.
And who is the statue of?
Robert E. Lee, the general, the famous Confederate Army general.
Who went to West Point.
Yeah, and was an extremely effective commander, and I don't know a great deal about him, but they lost the war. So, the North gets to write history. So I'm sure you can go ahead and paint Robert E. Lee with every type of negative brush you want.
Is Arlington National Cemetery
That's
on
where
his property?
Yes, that's another thing that they supposedly did was,
Well, he lost.
Yeah, it's very sort of,
So there is a
been a
group
thing
of
to-
people who are probably under the age of 30 who are now going out and dismantling monuments, statues that pertain to common American history.
This one was different.
Because of the vulgarity of it?
Yeah, the video they made was obscene, in my opinion. You had taken an historical monument, whether you agree or disagree with it, is fine, but maybe that should be moved to some sort of an area where, people
museum.
can come and view that and put it in some type of exhibit, even if you want to say, hey, here's an exhibit of people we hate.
What do you think their motivation is?
The hatred of white people.
Really?
Yes.
And it's all white people doing it?
Yeah, some. I mean, there's like plenty of, mostly like overly educated white women that are probably along on the train, and they're, douchebag bisexual male hanger-ons that, go along with them.
Do you think they're Marxists?
Yes. Well, in their opinion, yeah. I mean, Marxist is a word, too, that I don't think a lot of people pick up on. Nobody really knows who Karl Marx is. I just call them fucking commies at this point. You know what I mean? Like, there it is. Are you a fucking commie? Yes or no? It's very easy to see. And these people are definitely commies, and communists are extremely well-versed in removing art and literature and culture.
Stalin was an expert at it.
They love it.
He had people removed from pictures, paintings, literature.
And they did it again a couple days ago. And let me just say, if you watch this, I mean, dude, it's an ISIS beheading video of a statue. And
it's sickening.
It's bizarre.
What's the purpose?
They cut his head off. Then they cut the face off. Then they put the face, on the smelting sort of fire. And man, I'm telling you, it looked like the ghost of Robert E. Lee.
How did they get a hold of
was
this thing?
hollering.
You know what I mean? So this thing was probably taken down after George Floyd.
Here's what happened. Yes. They started immediately making moves to take the statue down. And because it's massive, they couldn't really do it. So they started to vandalize it. And it got vandalized for months and months and months. And then eventually it was, okay, we're going to take it down. And then it went through some court cases and things like that. Eventually, they said, okay, you can take it down. And I believe at some point there was an agreement where it was going to go into a museum. Okay. And at some point,
somebody put it on a different flatbed.
There's an organization that got a hold of this thing. This organization is some type of, they have a name. It's some big fucking grift that probably bilks millions of, taxpayer money to fund diversity and inclusion and shit like that. Well, these people got a hold of it, and they claimed in a secret, quote, symbolic ceremony, they dismantled it and destroyed it. And they're going to melt down the copper or the metal or the brass or whatever it was made out of and create a new inclusive monument. I've got an idea for that metal.
Okay.
I've got an idea for it.
All right, let's hear it.
We take that metal and we smelt it into the axes where we then, publicly execute you people. Because boy, oh boy, removing art and monuments and stuff like that. There's people, I mean, yeah, once in a while you see it done. I haven't seen it done in the United States like this before, and there is definitely going to be a pushback with this at some day.
Well, hopefully their paperwork is in order.
I mean,
Sad.
I don't know
Saddens
what's
me.
happening anymore in this fucking country.
Seems like there's more important things to worry about than an old statue of some general.
I agree. But just the fact that they had taken a historical artifact like
And
that
did all
and
this.
burnt it, and not only that, they made a video for Ivy League fucktards who don't know what gender they are. It was, that type of thing to excite them.
Well, when the hard times come, all those people will fade away.
You know who's not going to fade away, Bubs? Me, you, the instructor,
Yep.
and all the soldiers out there, because we're well informed, we're well versed. We're starting from square one. The instructor is going to be back. We're going to talk about more nuanced and topical and kind of laser focused stuff in the future.
Well, the gun owners, a lot of them that I know, are brand new to the game, or they're just
A few of them. Sure.
They're not proficient in a way that I view proficiency.
Sure.
And I hope they practice, their draws, and they practice their scenarios, and they practice their trigger press without disrupting their front sight.
I agree. Well, I got to say, we should really hit those Halloween clubs tonight, like we were talking about. You're looking good in that costume. The instructor has the leather chaps on.
Cowboy, poncho.
Yeah. Where's the amyl nitrate?
Oh, singlets. Yeah, let's do it.
Thanks again, guys, for listening to the Halloween show. We had a great time today. Hopefully you learned a lot.
Smash a fucking pumpkin tonight.
Why don't you smash another beer?
Well, I'll smash a fucking pumpkin. Where's your pumpkins? You don't have shit at the studio.
I got 2 right outside.
Yeah, you're a fucking disgrace.
We're going to see you next time, guys. Take care.
Bubs is out.